panel will be focusing on the diversified blockchain applications, moderated by Mr. Curious Wang from China Mobile. And then joining the panel will be James Eggleston, Srinivasan Sriram, and Ms. Tony Xu. Welcome. And this will be the last panel of this afternoon session.
Okay, good afternoon. It's my honor to moderate this panel with everyone, especially this the last panel. So before beginning, so my name is Curious. To introduce myself, my name is Curious, Senior Director, Head of Business Development from China Mobile. I'm also running the China Incubator Program based in Palo Alto. So actually, in the past couple of months, I actually spent quite a lot of time in this blockchain area, especially. To be honest, well, this week is a disaster for myself because the Ethereum and the Bitcoin, their price just hit the lowest price in the market and I lost a lot of money out there. And then I still finding issues to explain to my wife. But today is actually the highlight of my week because I got the chance to explore the bright future of the blockchain application with the expert here. So I would like to start introduction of each of you. So. Tony?
Yeah, hello. My name is Tony Xu. I'm the CEO of Super Game Chain and Marvelous. I believe we all live this world to experience. We all live this life to experience the world with safety and to connect with trust and also to contribute with reward. I believe internet has enabled us to experience, to connect, and to contribute. And now, blockchain is here to help us build that safety, trust, and reward layer on top of internet. That's why I'm here with Super Game Chain. We would like to use blockchain to democratize the gaming ecosystem and to build this safety, trust, and reward system for all the game developers. We're gonna bring this cryptocurrency. The SGCC will use this as a unified cryptocurrency for the all gaming world. Okay.
Thank you, Tony.
Great, I'm James Eggleston from Power Ledger. Power Ledger forms the transactive layer in electricity markets. So anywhere that there is poles and wires running down a street, our software can go into that market to make transactions much more efficient. What we do is tokenize kilowatt hours of electricity. The mission of Power Ledger is to democratize and decarbonize the electricity market. We held our ICO last year, end of Q4 2017. And what we do is really put the consumer at the heart of electricity markets and help them use the existing electricity infrastructure in a way that's never been done before, that benefits them to put generation behind the meter.
Hello everybody, my name is Sriram with SkewChain, and at SkewChain we use the blockchain to bring efficiencies into the supply chain. The world of collaborative commerce is upon us, and by collaborative commerce I mean that members of the supply chain ecosystem, from buyers to the supplier's supplier, the growers of the original product or the raw materials, are all participating in the production of goods, and you and I as consumers participate in the consumption of those goods. The marketplace as we know it has evolved through the millennia based upon each decade's technologies, if you will. The blockchain fundamentally shifts that paradigm. It allows for the first time in human history the opportunity for us as consumers to participate. The concept of inventory is changing, and we're excited about what it is that we're doing.
Thank you. So in the past couple of months, I actually talked to a lot of blockchain application, and there's a lot of stock company. And one of the common question I understand from them is that why do you think this blockchain technology is key to your solution, in your cases, and then why it is so important, and what's the differentiation from those centralized platform? James, maybe you can add on that. Yes.
Yeah, great. So the space we play in is the electricity utility space. And really what blockchain does is it echoes a decentralization that's already occurring in the market. So within electricity markets, what we're seeing is a decentralization of generation assets, a decentralization of storage assets. And really what this software provides is the ability to decentralize payment and ownership of units of electricity within that market. So we're not creating the wave, we're really just riding it, and blockchain seems to be the solution that solves that issue. So from our perspective, we're not rewriting the laws of physics, we're just rewriting the rules of the market, and in true nature of the fact that innovation outpaces regulation, leading the cutting edge in this space.
Right. So Srinivasa, your case, you're only the supply chain, leveraging the supply chain technology, and what's your case there?
So let me take a simple example. We walk into a grocery store and purchase some ice cream. That ice cream essentially came from milk powder. That milk powder came from a cow's milk, and the cow ate corn feed, and the corn came from a grower, and that came from a seed. And imagine all the different steps that goes through before you and I actually get to eat it. And think of all the transactions that took place, the purchase orders, the warehouse receipts, the ships that travel, money, the letters of credit, insurance, and you can begin to understand that just the act of eating ice cream essentially kicks off the whole supply chain. And what the blockchain allows us to do is to bring a significant amount of efficiency in there. And it is by its very nature decentralized. The grower of corn and the grower of milk are two different people.
Tony?
Yeah, I came from the gaming industry, and I believe there are a lot of articles and a lot of cases that shows there's great enthusiasm in combining blockchain and gaming, including the CryptoKitties that was very popular last year. So, and also, blockchain uses a token system, which is not stranger to the gaming industry. As you know, there being virtual currencies in gaming all the time. The question is, what do we want to use blockchain to solve? It's not about whether we're going to use it. So I believe in the gaming industry, there are a lot of issues that the current gaming ecosystem cannot resolve, but now blockchain can resolve. For example, as a game developer, if you want to deliver your game to the end users, this is your need. You just want to build a game and let the users to play your game. But now you're facing a lot of difficulties. First of all, you need to raise the fund, and then you need to go to the App Store, and the App Store will take 30% off. And also, for example, in App Store, there are millions of applications, 3 million applications and the games out there. So if you don't do advertisements, your game will never reach the hands of the gamers. So this is unsolvable in the current ecosystem. But with blockchain and super game chain, we are aiming to solve these issues by providing a fast and easy SDK solution of blockchain, so that all the game developers and the game platforms can use this blockchain solution. And they could use it to raise funds, to have the users, to match with the users without having to spend a hefty user acquisition cost, and to let the users play their games.
Right. I'm just out of curiosity because many people they are leveraging blockchain, try to replace the current centralized platform, whatever is insurance, data, gaming, power, or supply chain. So we don't know the benefit of blockchain that is the security and transparency, but we don't know the problem of this is the efficiency. So from your point of view, I'm just guess, right? In the next 2 years, what field of that could be widely adopted, by the people, or in the public, and then becoming really popular or mainstream, like Facebook social media network we are using. So, or in what case you think that blockchain technology is not an ideal case for that?
I think any application that will want to democratize it or make it, that is using data and has a value associated with their system. And if they want to make it trustworthy and efficient, they should be using blockchain. However, as you said, there is a technology bottleneck.
Right.
Like last year, for example, CryptoKitties was using Ethereum in their game. However, games are presenting a higher demand for the technology throughput. So CryptoKitties was almost brought Ethereum down, kind of like that. And then, so it is up to the developers to always understand, explore what technologies is the best for the industry. And it's not about the whether, it's about what. So I would believe as long as we could provide them the best, like a blockchain solution, all of the game developers should be bringing their games to blockchain, and maybe some other like applications also should, as long as the technology can provide.
James, had anything to add?
Yeah, I certainly echo the idea that if there's a digital transmission of value, blockchain certainly has application. Look, from my background's in the utility space and the policy space, and although I participated in holding cryptocurrency myself since 2012, I never thought that my work in energy policy and my hobby in cryptocurrency would come together. Even when we were initially talking to some of our other co-founders about blockchain being the solution, although I was quite cognizant in terms of what it was, I was also skeptical about whether or not it would solve the issue we were seeking to address in the electricity utility sector. We have looked at blockchain applications in other aspects of utilities, say water and things like that. In terms of creating a company to provide a benefit to the market outside of being a utility, being a private company and providing a blockchain solution in electricity certainly was the best line of attack. There would be efficiencies in other utility sectors such as transport and water. However, I think market incumbents or utilities themselves are probably better placed, because what they would be seeing is more of an internal efficiency in terms of value, whereas in the electricity space, you can incentivize users to generate additional electricity behind the meter. So for instance, with solar PV. I know it's the end of the day, but can I just get a show of hands? Who here is connected to electricity grid? I presume everyone's connected to electricity grid. Is anyone off grid by any chance? No one's off grid. Perfect. Can I also ask, does anyone here have solar PV on their rooftop? One. Is there more? Can barely see. Oh, does anyone know anyone with solar PV? Just to give me a sense on that. Yeah, wow. So, I mean, for instance, I come from a pretty sunny country. It's from Australia. 1 in 4 people have solar PV. So basically, our ability to provide a digital infrastructure to handle high volumes of transactions and settle them in real time solves a significant problem in the market. But yeah, it's quite interesting actually. The lack of decentralized energy. Yeah. I know there's a lot more. Maybe this room's a bad sample.
Thank you. Sure.
From a consumer perspective, if you can sort of think of the barcode that you pick up in any of the products you purchase, the SKU, if you will, and imagine it was not a barcode but a cryptographic key pair, and now you have a one-to-one marketing relationship with your brand. The whole world of advertising is going to change, because for the first time in history, you have the opportunity to touch every single person who had something to do with the product. Imagine being able to tip the lady who stitched your shirt in Malaysia, because you now have the opportunity to understand the provenance trail. The types of applications that this will create, we are yet to understand. It's a foundational change. You know, to talk about Industry 4.0, I think we're on that cusp where information replaces capital. So the whole concept of there being warehouses and stores and all of us going out there and being fed product that is being advertised to us in change when we participate, when we actually become producers and consumers ourselves, think of a supply chain of one. I mean, these are the kinds of possibilities. I mean, obviously it takes a while to happen, but that's essentially where this whole train of the blockchain for the supply chain is going.
Thank you. So I'm wondering, because the like I said, mentioned that blockchain has an efficiency problem. So we was wondering if what the biggest challenge of the blockchain being adopted widely, or what would be the blockchain technology is where that become in the next 5 years. Sharon, you have anything comment on this?
Blockchain efficiency is an issue if you think of public blockchains and if you think of essentially replicating the data across thousands of nodes. But in enterprises, in the supply chain, you might have buyers, sellers, and 2 banks, maybe an insurance company, 5, 7, 10, 12 parties. And the number of transactions are definitely not where you're looking at it from the consumer perspective. Now, when you hit the consumer, I think the panel, one of the earlier panelists talked about layer 2. Layer 2 is where you're going to have the efficiency. Layer 1 just provides that trust that ensures that that product that you're purchasing came from a place where there was no conflict and rules, or there was no slave labor used. I mean, these are the kinds of assertions that the blockchain brings to bear, but it sort of provides the foundation for layer 2.
Thank you.
I think the blockchain technology is evolving very, very fast. Bitcoin can process 5 transactions per second, and it's like the gold of, it has its reason for being in this kind of transaction speed.
So you believe that will replace those centralized platforms?
Yes. And then like Ethereum brought in smart contract, but it can also process 15 transactions per second. And then Nebulous is a new kind of technology, and it can process 2,000 transactions per second, and it's bringing the ranking valuation in the blockchain. And now there is a Hedera hash graph, which was invented by CMU Carnegie Mellon Professor Lehman Beard, whom I really, really admire. And his hash graph can actually process 250,000 transactions per second. Mm-hmm. So I don't expect all the developers, all the application developers to actually investigate and follow up and to hire somebody to build this technology themselves. So we would like to, I think this technology is evolving fast. And a lot of tools like the Super Game Chain or something like that will provide the easy SDK for developers to use to integrate the latest blockchain technology. And with that, I believe more and more applications and will be able to actually come into being with the evolution of blockchain.
Sure, just add, one of the issues we initially faced was the power consumption in our own private blockchain. And being focused on electricity, we wanted to reduce our parasitic load. How our project started out was we were looking to build people within an apartment building for sharing a shared battery and solar system. And being energy nerds, we were just really concerned with keeping that parasitic loading of our software right down to a minimum. And in actually solving that problem, we inadvertently created a software that could actually be expanded over the entire distribution network and thus the entire electricity market. So yeah, addressing inefficiencies at a base level is quite important. Mm-hmm. And now the issue we face is issues around scale, mm-hmm. and going from commercial scale applications to enterprise scale. Mm-hmm. And these remain to be solved.
Sorry, I'd like to add a little bit. On top of efficiency, there are other kind of concerns or things that needs to be addressed by blockchain technology, such as sometimes blockchain is kind of transparent, and sometimes people don't want that transparency. So the customization of the layers of settings are like control that you want to give the users is also something that can be provided in the future to blockchain technologies.
Well, it's quite interesting to see. I mean, that kind of blockchain technology kind of recall me the .com, period that in 2000 yes. And then so today the mainstream solution is still controlled by those big guys like Facebook, Google, and then we are know a couple weeks ago Google and Facebook they just banned cryptocurrency ads. And Twitter also banning ads as well. So it's kind of like a warrior between those centralized platform, which is the big guys in the industry right now, against blockchain, most of that stock company like you. So I'm just wondering that today, this morning I also read an article saying that blockchain associated band together try to sue Google and Facebook in the collusion. And then so my question would be, in such case, how are you gonna deal with, try to coexist with these big guys, the centralized platform, together with this decentralized app?
Yeah, from our perspective in the electricity sector, we have to mirror the rules of the market. So in the electricity sector, this is referred to as data sovereignty. So who owns their data? So in an uncontestable space, so I guess I presume everyone in the room is from all over America and abroad. Does anyone have a choice of energy retailer? Can I get a show of hands if you have one energy retailer, like you only can ever choose one company in your area? Yeah, and I presume everyone else has a choice of many other retailers. So the markets with choice, the data can actually legally be owned by the consumer. That's your private data. Your energy meter, it's like your mobile phone number, you own that. You change company, you keep the number, new company. But in a non-contestable market, where you only have the choice of one retailer, that retailer owns your information, and you don't have a choice. But so from our perspective, we echo what the market's doing, but obviously in the future, certainly a fan of decentralized data. You can tell a lot about a person from their energy use, so it's quite important to remember.
Well, I would like to answer the diversity of the market choice, and then, but my understanding is that right now those big guys, they are not doing nothing, because they are the leading position in the market right now. So some of the big guys, they are probably not changing them, themselves as a revolution, changing them from as a centralized platform into a decentralized platform, but most likely it's like leveraging the technology to improve part of the component only, so making them become better. So in such case, how do you deal with their straighten? Especially Tony, you are the expert in gaming area, you publish a lot of game, and then I had a chance to read your white paper of your company, and then so you all kind of try to fight against Google Play or those distribution app stores. So how do you see that?
I think everybody don't want to be left out from the blockchain kind of wave. Everyone wants to catch the wave. The question is, at what level? I think there are probably 3 levels, according to my understanding or my thoughts. Like the first layer is the technology layer, the technology level. I believe all these big guys would like to get into the technology level. They don't want to be, they have the human power to and the talent to actually do something about the technology of blockchain. I believe they're all doing. I know there are groups in Google, Facebook, they're all doing blockchain technology. And that's easy, that's for sure, they're gonna do it. But the second layer is probably the value layer, all the token layer. And then this layer could be, I think, Facebook will be very easy to integrate. They already have Facebook credits, and it's very easy to convert to a cryptocurrency to use it. But then it has to be so that's easy for some big guys, but not for all. I think a lot of game platforms out there are including China game platforms like 360 or some others. Maybe 360, I forgot. So basically, a lot of game platforms are out there doing blockchain. They issue their own tokens. So that is the second layer. It's almost like the original centralized distribution platform plus token. That's the second layer. And then the third layer is the hauling of the ecosystem. That's where you build the trust and transparency, and also the decentralized ecosystem. That is hard for all the big guys. That means it's contradicting to what they have already been achieving, and it might take their existing profitability, like a monetization system out from them, and then starting something new. That's hard for them, and that's easy for us. That's why we are here to provide this, the most complete and the most decentralized ecosystem for the gaming world. That's only something new like us can do.
Thank you. Should we process?
So in terms of the large organizations, Google, Facebook, Oracle, SAP, and others, I think all of them are actively thinking of the blockchain. The key distinction, however, is that blockchain is a disruptive technology. It exposes new business models. Think of HTTP, TCP/IP, SMTP, essentially being what they call thin protocols and fat applications. Gmail makes a lot of money because you're essentially a fat app sitting on top of a thin protocol. Tokens are a fat protocol, and now you have thin apps. So the world is changing, and I'm sure the large organizations are going to figure ways to attract that change. But this is also an opportunity for startups to try to come in who don't have any legacy, to sit back and say, well, we're now entering this new decentralized era. Protocols can essentially pay for themselves with token. There's an opportunity to essentially bring information into the open that was not existing before. And with big data and AI and new types of ways of processing that information, you now have a trustable, actionable source, right? And so this is, I think, a transformational thing. We see ourselves as being at that sort of intersection of the old meeting the new. And we recognize that, we think of our competitors as being folks like IBM and SAP, but it's so difficult for them, and it's because they're so large. It's not, they're very successful, that's why they're so large, but at the same time, they have legacy businesses that are cash flow positive, and it's very hard for them to think differently.
Thank you. So I know we are running late, but I do have one more question, especially for Tony. Definitely, I don't want to delay James. James is trying to catch on the flight later tonight. So Tony, I do have one more question because Chino Mobile is pretty experienced in app development. So in the past, Google and Apple Store, they are duopoly and pretty dominant in the app distribution channel. So my question is that, how do you think is the decentralized app or blockchain app that will disrupt those Google App Store distribution? Because in the past, it's like today, for example, there's a record that 2017 Google and Apple, the App Store business just hit the record, and then got year-over-year 15% growth again. So that's a huge revenue everyone want to earn, including the mobile manufacturer or those intermediate like advertiser. So how do you think yourself, because you are sort of like building a platform against those centralized platforms, so how do you see you're gonna disrupt those Google Store?
That's a great question. I really like it. So, I think in the App Store, currently in App Store, just like what you just mentioned, how many users can control what kind of games they want to see, what kind of applications they want to see? They cannot, and not by the developers either. It's all controlled by the editors or the stores. They decide what games out of the millions of applications that they want the users to see. So, and do they care about the user? Is there any user identity associated with the stores? No. You are just a number to them. So it's totally centralized, and it's decided by the few kind of editors, or everybody will fight to compete for being featured on the stores, or get onto the leaderboard. Use whatever means you can. But I think this is not right. I think developers, the users, is not just a number. They are the identities. They spend a lot of money, a lot of time in the games. They should be proud of their gamer identity, and they should have the right to choose what kind of applications they would like to use, what kind of games they want, and they could also probably invest in some applications from their conception stage so that the developers can be funded by the end users or get market validated from the beginning to provide the best kind of market validated applications of games for the users. So that's why we are providing this super game chain so that gamers can create their gamer identity. It is anonymous, but it is their real gamer identity that can be associated with all the other gaming activities in the game. And they should be able to, we will use AI to match their interest and provide the games to them for them to fund, to vote, to play without charging them, without charging the developer the user acquisition cost, and without the users have to give out their privacy. So I think this the blockchain-enabled game platform should be identity-oriented and should be more decentralized. That the current App Store cannot do, and they will not do. Not just they cannot, but also will not.
Actually, can I just add to that as well? The application I've spoken to about thus far tonight has been peer-to-peer trading of electricity. But we're about to release another white paper called Asset Germination. So there won't be a token sale or anything like that. All this is a paper describing our next application. And what it is we're enabling our power token holders to use their power tokens to finance infrastructure and electricity markets. So just in the same way that Google Play or Apple may have a hegemony in terms of the marketplace, at the moment your network operators and utility services providers, they control your electricity market and they decide what's built. They pay for what's built. They make decisions based on 40-year timeframes. They sign fuel contracts for 15 years. But what we will enable is people to be able to implement their own infrastructure. So a good example of that would be in a third world country that has no electricity network. That's 1.2 billion people on this planet, so not everyone has that. And what they can do is, using our platform, they can incentivize power token holders to fund a solar farm for a remote village. And what happens then is that people in that village can participate as well. And what it does is it keeps any profit that comes from generation in that village within the village. And in that village can afford a battery, and so on and so forth. The village next door can do the same thing. And then between the two, they can fund a line, some kind of network line to transact between one another, all utilising our software. And so that is the network effect, where you can actually have a self-designing, decentralised network. And this is what's coming next in the electricity space.
Thank you.
If you think of SAP, Oracle, supply chain software, or Microsoft Dynamics, these are siloed systems used by large enterprises. The world is moving into a more collaborative space where the same invoice is shared between buyer and seller. So what is needed is a shared ledger or a distributed ledger. And so that is the change that we're seeing, at least in our world, where the siloed systems are transforming into shared systems. And who owns the system? No one really, but everybody is a participant or has a stake in it. And the blockchain governance model essentially becomes a very valuable mechanism by which different organizations are able to participate, work with, incentivize, motivate their supply chains. Think of Walmart and its 100,000 suppliers, and how is it that today they can sort of use the power of their purchasing to get them to adopt their siloed technology, whereas tomorrow you have an agile supply chain where everybody essentially broadcasts to an asynchronous Twitter-like secure shared ledger and provides access to those individuals or groups that need access. So that's the way we're seeing the transformation happen from the large siloed enterprise software vendors to the decentralized world.
Thank you. We still have a couple of questions that you covered, but we're running out of time, so at this time I need to wrap up this panel. So thank you, great panelists, great audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Next, we will be having a very exciting raffle